Hi, my name is Chris Rogers, and I wanted to share with you my process for designing a greeting card from scratch. In order to produce this final design, I started with the general concept of a brightly colored animal-themed greeting card. The elements I wanted to include were some photographic element, some vector element, and finally, creative use of typography. Using pictures of my brother's dog for inspiration, I started by sketching some thumbnails, and then I chose the one that I felt was the strongest. By instinct, I included the rule of thirds and an analogous color scheme. I settled on the A7 size, or 5 by 7 inches, and I went with a bleed of an 1/8 inch all the way around. I created a CMYK Photoshop document that was the correct size for my greeting card. To account for the bleed, the dimensions were 5 1/4 by 7 1/4 at 300 dpi. The software I used was Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe InDesign. Now, on to the design. I opened a high-resolution photograph that I took specifically for this project, and I cropped it to the correct aspect ratio of the front cover. Even though InDesign generally does a good job with clipping to bounding boxes, I specifically crop and match my image dimensions to the frame size in InDesign to reduce issues in the plate making process during prepress. To give this image a surreal look, I bumped up the saturation. Some touch-up work was needed to remove my reflection from the sunglasses. I wanted to incorporate some vector elements into my design, so I used the Polar Grid tool and the Live Paint tool in Illustrator to accomplish this. To get the look I was going for, my plan was to use blending modes in Photoshop. I imported my vector layer and created a mask that followed the shape of the dog. I returned to Illustrator to begin work on the typography. To create interest, I used a thick font, expanded it to outlines, and manipulated each character individually. At this point, it was time to use the appearance and graphic style palettes in Illustrator and give these text characters some character. The layers containing the text were exported to Photoshop layers so that raster techniques could be used on the shadows. To finish out the card, this involved placing the Photoshop document into the InDesign layout, adding some copy to the inside right page, and placing my vector logo on the back.